Okay, welcome to another edition of the Blunt Force Conservative podcast. I'm Chris Hinkle, your Blunt Force Conservative, soon to be grandfather, husband, father, retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent, undefeated on the constitutional debate stage, still taking on all comers with that, having fun with it. It has been a busy week. Sorry we didn't have a show last weekend. We are in the Hinkle family. We are a holiday family. So my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was born on Valentine's Day. My late mother was born on St. Patrick's Day. My youngest son, although it's not a federal holiday, was born on Cinco de Mayo on May 5th. And then there's my dad, who was actually born on the 4th of July, 1943. He just turned 82 when I went over to the house to visit with him and spent some time with him, helping him take care of some projects and stuff. We replaced a over the range microwave, the one that he's had got fried a couple of years ago, and he is a penny pincher, as my brother-in-law or producer, Mr. Producer Chris, will tell you. He's a penny pincher, so he won't go out and spend money unless he has to. We still have no idea how much money he's got. We got to get that reconciled because I've been through this process with uh, not when my mom passed, but when my uncle passed, where I had to be the executor of the will and then try to figure out where everything is. So please get with your anybody that you're designated to be the executor. You need to get with them ahead of time, make them put a journal together, write down where everything is, account numbers, passwords, anything you can get your hands on. Uh, and kind of hypocritical with that, my wife and I need to get out there and get with my brother-in-law here and get our wills intact, especially since we got the granddaughter, our first grandchild, coming in September. So if you see I'm kind of dressed down today, if you saw me on TV earlier this week on the Chris Salcedo show, the typical FBI uniform of the coat, tie, dress shirt. It is hot as blazes down here in Mississippi, and I'm doing everything I can to get myself back in shape. I'm not in the shape I was in my 20s. If I want to be, I guess, me made fun of, my brother-in-law has seen this picture of me when I'm in my mid 20s, standing in the Mediterranean, off the coast of Adana in Turkey when I was in the military. Back when I was really fit, then could push a lot of weight. Slowly getting back there. It takes a little longer for the recovery at 61 and 61 and a half years old. So it's been a little tough. I've dropped about 20 pounds since Christmas. Put about 3 to 5 of it back on, but it's been 3 to 5 good muscle pounds. My oldest son is a fitness trainer, and he's the fitness director at a large uh, complex here in Madison, Mississippi. It's probably the biggest one in the state, and it's done out of Baptist Health Systems, and they've got this gigantic uh, athletic facility. And he started out there folding towels when he was in high school in his senior year at 2014 when the place opened up. And now he's like the number 2 guy in this fitness complex. Couldn't be more proud of him. He took to heart the advice that I gave him when he was trying to when he told me what he wanted to do in life. Uh, he wanted to be involved in the fitness industry, and he got the opportunity to start folding towels there and got his foot in the door. They were good with him of accommodating his schedule to go to college, getting his associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree, and slowly working his way up. And now, 11 years later, he's the number 2 guy. He actually just got a huge promotion, a huge raise, because they like the things that he's done. He's been there longer than anybody else, so couldn't be more proud of him. Other things going on in the Hinkle household. We went to see Superman last night, the new Superman movie. I won't give you any spoilers that's in the movie. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it probably for a different reason than the other people that were in the theater. My kids have always been fans in the comic book industry. when they would dress up for Halloween, my oldest Jake would dress up as Superman, middle son Josh would dress up as the Flash, and youngest son Noah would dress up as Batman. And we've actually got, the caricatures done at Disney World hanging up in the stairs as you go up to the upstairs of our house. So one of the things before Jake came along was around the time that the Death of Superman series was coming out in DC Comics. And I started buying up that series of comics, and I kept those secured in a locked briefcase. And when Jake was old enough, he started reading those and looking into them, and he just became a huge fan. So my joy last night was not from watching the movie and the things that I saw, was just watching him as he enjoyed the movie. I mean, he's 29 years old, but it's still my son. I still enjoy, watching my kids have fun at the things they do and the things they enjoy. And it was a fun movie. It's not what I thought it was going to be, as far as the way that prior Superman movies came out, where it was kind of a chronological story. The special effects were really good. There was some corny stuff in it that it was okay. Only a couple of profane words I thought that were unnecessary. They probably could have kept those out so that it'd be easier to take your kids to. You can still take your kids to it. They're not that graphic with the profanity. As far as comparison to other movies, I will tell you, I think Man of Steel was better, like way better, immeasurably better. Just the way the cinematic, the way that the story is told, I think that was the pinnacle of the Superman movies. And then second would probably be the original Superman with Christopher Reeve. And then you could probably put this one in there as far as Superman movies. I think they have fun with it. I think that the Branahan lady, I think she does a great job. As she looks like you would expect Lois Lane to look today. The guy that plays Jimmy Olsen, I think he does a really good job. I think Nathan Fillion does a great job as Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, for those of you that are into this stuff. And it is a fun time. I would encourage you to go see it. We saw it in IMAX. If you're going with a couple of people, pay and go see it in IMAX. It was a chunk of change to take 8 people to see this movie in IMAX last night, but I would have paid double to be able to sit with my wife, my 3 sons, my 2 daughters-in-law, and my youngest son's girlfriend. That part was fun, to sit there and eat popcorn and drink out of the commemorative cups. The experience was what was fun. So a lot of things going on this week. I've been hugely busy. I do some contract work with one of the contracts I have. They're bringing on a new person to do some of the things that I do, and they're paying me to take this person around for the next 2 weeks and kind of show them the ropes on how to meet the items of this, the parameters of this contract work. It's contract investigator work. I think the person's doing well. I've had him there for a week. I got another week of doing that. So that's kept me busy during the day. And then something I do to decompress that's outside of anything that you would think that I would do, I still do some soccer officiating. I've done soccer officiating, everything from, the little kid level all the way up to college. I've even done some international matches where we've had a team from Monterrey, Mexico, playing against a U.S. team. Got to participate as one of the crew on that one. It was something I did before because my kids were involved in soccer. The middle one and the youngest one were recruited to play college soccer and played college soccer. It gave me an opportunity to bond with them and understand about soccer. I never was a soccer guy growing up. I was more into baseball. Played a little football, played a lot of baseball, but never got any of my kids to just get the baseball itch like I did. And they they really excelled at soccer. I wanted to learn more about it, so I became a soccer referee and helped offset the cost of travel soccer. We've traveled everywhere from North Carolina down to Disney World to the ESPN Sports Complex to Louisiana to Texas to the Frisco, Dallas area with soccer, and we made some great friends, had some great experiences doing that. Yeah, those days are kind of behind, so I've reined it back now. I'm no longer a certified soccer official. I do some adult league soccer up here at the Madison Elplex where my son works in the evenings, usually Monday through Thursday, 2 to 3 days, 2 to 4 days a week, and up there for 2 to 3 hours, just kind of having fun with some people closer to my age. Um, and it's a good way to stay in shape. Not at the level I'm at now because there's not as much running as there was when I first got into soccer. When I started first doing, especially when I was doing college soccer, if you're the center referee on a college soccer game, you're talking goodness during 90 minutes, 45-minute halves, you're probably doing easily over 10 miles of running, and it's sprinting and slowing down and sprinting and walking. It's a good way to burn some calories to get your heart more in tune with your fitness level. That is fun. I don't do that amount of running anymore. Before I used to keep track of that stuff, and I would do, in a given week, anywhere from 50 to 70 miles a week of running. So I didn't start doing it till I was in my late 40s and did it until when did I retire from this stuff? A few years back. Decided I wasn't going to do it at that level anymore. I just got too many other things going on. So I had to do that in the evening. During the day, I was texting back and forth with my good friend Chris Salcedo, and Chris had asked me to come on his show on Tuesday. Well, actually, Anna, his producer, had reached out to me about coming on and talking a little bit about the Pam Bondi issue when all this stuff was really hot. And they sent me an outline, and it's the first time we've done this type of segment on Salcedo's show with the Court of Public Opinion. And I got to be on with Chad Prather. So let me pull him up here real quick. I'm going to share his because I had some interaction with him. So, Mr. Producer, if you want to pull that up, that's Chad Prather. Got a large following on X. I don't think you can see it there. I didn't make the screen, or maybe it's not big enough there. He's got about 500,000 followers. He's really good guy. I agreed with a lot of the things he was saying. He was brought on to kind of be an antagonist with me, talking about the way that I think that the mechanics are working behind the scenes with all this stuff going on. And we're going to comment on that during the show here about what I think is going on, not revealing anything. I don't have any, there's almost nobody that has any real inside sources, unless you're talking directly to Dan Bongino, Cash Patel, Pam Bondi, or or Trump. You're not getting the straight answer on that. It's just, I think, and I'm going to make some notifications about that. I'm going to make some comments about that as well. I think, the appearance on Salcedo's show, and I'll pull him up now. Here's his page on X. Chris Salcedo. I encourage you to follow him, listen in. He's got a radio show on KEV out of Texas in the mornings, and then he does his show in the afternoon. I've been on both of those. I consider him a friend. We do text back and forth. He's the one that put me in touch with Chad Prather. Connecting us online, and then Chad ended up following me. I think I had already followed him before that, and we've had a couple of DMs, and we agree more than we disagree on the things going on with Bondi, Patel, the cash thing, the Epstein stuff. And right prior to getting on the air here, I was on the phone with another good friend of mine who's actually at the beach. He sent me a picture of him on the beach, and that's Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports. So Mark, he's really getting a good following on X, and he's being called in on a lot of large platforms. And he and I were talking up till about 5 minutes before we came on the air here. I was trying to figure, my brother-in-law had asked me, where is he? Because I did his podcast Thursday night, and the resolution just wasn't what we're used to. I don't know if he had the bandwidth or something, or maybe he was streaming to too many platforms. We're going to talk. I'm going to talk to Mark and try to figure that out. He's really helped me out with kind of crafting what this podcast would look like. He's talked to me about lighting and the way that he does things. I think he looks pretty cool when he's doing his podcast. And I think we've got a great product here. All kudos to my brother-in-law for putting this together. But Mark and I were talking some theories and stuff. He's a funny guy too. He just had a text recently that said, apologies for what I said about the Republican Party the other night. I was drunk. Now my head is clear. What is it? Now my head is clear, and I can't find it. Now my head is clear, and I can be even more hateful or something like that. It was something similar to that, but it was funny. So the other person I wanted to talk about here that and I'll tell you why is let's see, where is it? It's not it. Oh, there she is. Is this person right here, Insurrection Barbie. So I've had some DMs with Insurrection Barbie, and I don't know if anybody follows Stealth Medical. I highly encourage you to do. There are two people that I actually listen to in some of these spaces on the on X. They're very insightful. Their analytical skills are really, really good. I don't know what they actually do for a living. I'm going to have to ask them that because some of their spaces go forever. I actually was listening in on one of Stealth Medical's spaces, and I bet there was, goodness, probably over 10,000 people in that space at one point. And when I when I was I fell asleep on the couch listening to that space at about 10:30, and I woke up at about 2:30 in the morning, and that thing was still going on. And you know what? Everything they were saying was really poignant, really good. I'm surprised at people that are able to do that. They're obviously really good at what they do. They don't come out with these crazy conspiracy theories. They're really pretty basic at what they're looking at. But anyway, she had sent me a DM earlier in this week, and I'm hoping this is going to happen here in about the next 38 minutes. She's going to open up a space, and she asked me to come on the space. I think a couple of friends of mine that are retired agents may pop in there, and we'll field some questions and talk about things. I think we're going to try to stream it here on X, where you can either go and listen to her space and listen to it directly, or you can actually just come to my page. I don't know if we're going to do a live stream with me sitting here. We may pop in and out like that. Kind of playing around with just using just a photograph, because a lot of this is going to be, you're just going to see me sitting looking at the camera while somebody's asking a question or somebody else is making a point. If that's what you want to look at, we'll put that out there. So let's get into what we're here to talk about. The Epstein stuff. So that was what I got pulled into in conversations with Salcedo and some others this weekend. There's some other people that, I consider friends, that we're in a little private DM group that we bounce some ideas off of each other and laugh at some of the things that we see on the internet, especially on X, and determining what we're going to keep our powder dry on and what we're just going to let play out, let people get embarrassed. And that's the Epstein stuff. So when I was on with Mark on Thursday on the Rasmussen Reports podcast. I mentioned as far as the Epstein death. So the story that comes out, and of course Dan Bongino made news when he was on, I think on Fox and Friends, and he said, "Listen, I looked at the available videotape. We got some things cleaned up. We're going to release it when we can, and I don't see. There's no evidence there that he didn't kill himself. It's just everything points to him committing suicide." And I really hadn't gotten out there and commented on it openly, but I have said that I think that two things can be true: that Jeffrey Epstein did in fact kill himself, and there was malfeasance involved with his death. So let me explain that. First, about the suicide. So if someone is intent, and I was a hostage negotiator for a number of years in the FBI, and one of the things that we're taught in there is the actions that you take. You can't push somebody into killing themselves if that's what the determination is that they want to do. If they want to jump off a building, they're going to jump off a building. You can try to delay that to, get them the care that they need, or pull them back, or rescue them from themselves. I think that, he was on suicide watch. So he had tried to kill himself before, which means that they were supposed to be checking on him. And I think the last check was around 10 p.m. And the next time they saw him was in the morning at 6 a.m. And that he was deceased at that time, that he hanged himself. Now, a lot of people think that you need to suspend the body and, feet dragging from the floor and stuff, that's how you hang yourself. And it's not the case. I have investigated a number of crime scenes where individuals had hanged themselves, and we had one guy that was in a visiting a little apartment place that he was hanging from a doorknob. He just kind of put the ligature around and slumped down until it put pressure on the carotid artery here on the left side. And you can put some pressure on that. It's one of the things, the offensive defensive tactics we were taught at the FBI Academy, which was how to we call it the carotid. Most people call it the chokehold. You're not choking, you're putting pressure on that carotid artery. And if you do that, you're cutting off the blood flow to the brain, and it doesn't take long before those individuals pass out. So, and it doesn't take, you can take tissue paper, and if you wind enough of it together, it becomes a little more taut, and it can be taut enough that it can put some pressure on your carotid. So hanging himself wasn't gonna be something that he could not do. Even if it was just kind of tissue paper, blankets and stuff in there, if his clothes were tearaway clothes, there's still enough there that he could do it. The other is the malfeasance. So he wasn't checked on for hours. Now, that could be because these individuals were told not to check on him. So you provide him a window of opportunity to take his life, and that could be complicit in his death. Or they're just malcontents in the workplace. They don't show up when they're supposed to. They're lazy. Could be any of that stuff. Could middle of the night, they just fell asleep on the job and didn't go check him. Any of that could be the case. And I think those things need to be investigated and looked into. The other in the theory that I had was, was he on any type of medications? Any SSRIs, any type of medications dealing with depressive nature, manic type things. Because if you are taking those things routinely and your body becomes dependent on them and you take it away, it can manifest into really big psychological problems. So that might have gotten him to the point where he's like, my world's coming to an end. I got to get out of here. I can tell you that somebody in his level, with the wealth, the things that he had, and all of a sudden, all of that is taken away from him, and he thinks this world is ending. can definitely encourage somebody with thoughts of, okay, what am I going to do about this? There's a thing that we have in law enforcement where a term called suicide by cop. And there's a reason why when, as an FBI agent, when we would go out and execute an arrest warrant against somebody, if it was a drug dealer, a gangbanger or something, we would carry sufficient people to overwhelming force to go in and arrest that person. Most of the time, those people have been arrested so many times, they know they can put the cuffs on better than you can. So it's not that big of a deal. It's probably less dangerous than others. But when you go to arrest somebody, let's say it's a CEO of a company or a bank president, and that person has never been incarcerated, has never been arrested. Now all of a sudden, there's some notoriety with their name coming out of the media. Their world is coming to an end that they think they're in the workplace. They may think, goodness, I'm not going to survive this. They're either going to try to take their life or they're going to do suicide by cop, which is, well, I guess I'll just take this gun out and I'll fight my way out. They'll kill me and that'll be it. My wife will get some money from our life insurance policies. There's a reason why when we go to arrest a bank president like that, it looks like we're carrying too many people. It's because that can actually be a more dangerous situation than when we go to arrest the person that's the gangbanger or the other hardened criminal, because they know what the system's like. They know the abstract, the things that somebody who hasn't been through that process imagines is far more devious, far more worse than the reality, but they don't know that at the time. I could see Epstein thinking, I'm never getting out of here. This is my world now. I'm going to be in this little 10 by 10 cell or however big it was. And I can't live like this. You just took everything away from me. Now I'm less than I was before. Uh, I don't want to stay here like that. And if he was on some type of medication, it could have been magnified with what happened to him. Just a theory. I don't know anything. I haven't looked at the report of his death. I did see where that Dr. Baden, that's I guess he's famous out there, this pathologist, where he had he talked about the breaking of the hyoid bone in the neck, that's more indicative of strangulation. It is indicative. It doesn't mean it's definitive. I've investigated scenes where it's clear strangulation. We got witnesses to it, and the hyoid bone's not broken. And I've seen some where individuals have hanged themselves and the hyoid bone is broken. Just depends on the circumstances. So I don't. It's not that I'm discounting what he says and what his theories are. He's an experienced, learned man, but it's not definitive. There's no way he can definitively say that. He can say, here are the indications. Here's what I think. Here's the manner and causes of death. So that getting with the Epstein stuff. So now let's switch gears to the political side of this. So if folks will remember when Dan Bongino went on Fox and Friends, he mentioned looking through the file, watching the videos, the things that he had seen in the file. It's probably a stark contrast to what he imagined he would see when he was doing his podcast. And now he's inside and he's actually seeing the file. That he's just not seeing the things in there that he thought, things that would lend credibility that he killed himself, that he didn't kill himself. So, and he said, we're working through the file. We're going to clean up this video of the exterior of his cell, the monitoring, and we're going to get that out there. But people are probably going to be disappointed, but it is what it is. He did say that. Now contrast that to what we're seeing from Pam Bondi, and I said this from day one on this issue when she started talking about the things that she had on her desk, the files, the videos, that she and she did say that I've got the list on my desk. She has retracted that and explained that what she meant. I'm going to take her at her word. I kind of believe that. I think Trump believes that from that scene where they're in the conference room and he's like, hey, if you want to continue talking about this guy, he killed himself in 2019 and we're talking 7 years later, or 6 years later, we've got bigger things going on. We got bigger successes and bigger problems that we're addressing right now. And people want to talk about this guy that died in 2019. I think Trump wants to move on from it. He wants to focus on continuously moving forward. Visiting the past doesn't necessarily move the ball forward unless you're exposing things to sunlight, so that, and that gets into the Brennan and the Comey investigations. But let's finish up with this on Epstein with Bongino and with Bondi. Do I think that there likely were some harsh words, maybe some raised voices between Bongino and Bondi? It's likely. Most everybody in the workplace has had some candid conversations with their boss, may have elevated their voice a little bit. It happens. I think that did happen. I don't know, and I haven't seen anything out there, and I know there's these large follower accounts and these investigative reporters, and I do that in air quotes for a reason, that say my sources are telling me that Dan Bongino has laid down the law. He's saying it's me or Bondi. And I just had this conversation with several people. Let's play this out. How do you think, and you can post your comments or your questions here if you want to. You can DM me, or you can put it in the comments section with this video, with this podcast. How do you think it plays out with Trump? If, let's say, on Monday, Bongino walks into goes over to the Oval Office, Trump's sitting there, and he just walks in and says, listen, I can't work with this lady anymore. It's a problem. I don't think she's credible. And it's her or me. If you don't fire her, I'm leaving. What do you think happens? You just put Trump backed him into a corner that he's got to choose between Bondi, who is a Senate confirmed attorney general that he chose to put in that position after he pulled Matt Gaetz back, or Dan Bongino, the appointed deputy director of the FBI. Where do you think that goes? I can tell you my theory. The way it goes is, I think Dan Bongino walks into the Oval Office and tells Trump, it's her or me. You got to fire her or I'm leaving. Trump's probably without hesitation going to tell him, I wish you well. It's been great having you here. Thank you for the job you've done. I'll put your accolades out there. Good luck when you get back to Florida. I think that's what he'll say. I don't think Trump is concerned about whether or not Dan would go back to his podcast career and start trashing Trump and revealing all these secrets. I just don't think that the people I know that are around him, Bongino, don't believe that he's that way. I think he's more of a man of integrity. I do trust him. I like him as the deputy director. And I'll tell you, I actually like him better as the deputy director than I do Kash Patel as the director. I like both of them in the position. I think they're doing a good job. But Dan is probably the one that surprised me the most about how well he's adapted to that position. The deputy director position is hard. It is difficult. Your day is packed. My guess is when he's up in DC, he's probably getting into the office sometime after 5 a.m, getting a workout in, and then he's at meetings almost immediately, getting briefed on what happened the night before, what threats have we got, trying to address ongoing cases after addressing the new threats that have come out, and then maybe he has time to address things from the past, and then you got to deal with personnel issues. He probably, I bet he would work from 6 a.m. till at least probably 8 or 10 at night. It is a tough job. I do admire the fact that he wears the suit, that he wears the uniform of the FBI agent. He has a badge. I don't know if he has a gun. He can get one if he wants. That is in the law. The FBI director, deputy director, and special agents are issued badges, credentials, and guns. So he gets that. I know Kash Patel has a badge because I've seen it on his hip. I haven't seen him with a gun, like carrying around a gun every day. Louis Freeh, when he was director, he didn't have a protective service detail, so he carried a gun every day. He was always armed. And the story was, if he saw you out on the street outside FBI headquarters and you were an agent and he came up to talk to you, he might actually kind of as he's moving around you, he may tap you on the hip to see if you're armed, or he may ask you because you're supposed to be. So I think that they fulfill the part. I think with Bondi, and as I said on Salcedo's show this weekend, and I texted somebody, a connected person. I said, after my comments on Chris Salcedo's show, I don't think I'm going to get any Christmas cards from Pam Bondi. I think that she got out over her skis. I think she overpromised and underdelivered. I think she put Cash and Dan in a position that they didn't need to be in. And I think the best way to have not caused this to happen is if they had heeded the advice of myself and others in the beginning and look and act the part. Look and act the part. I think that's the best way to go. Rather than doing these hit pieces, and I was critical of those behind the scenes with things that she was doing on Fox News, of going on Hannity and buying into the sensationalism. I didn't think it was a good look. I said she should, if she's got something to say and it's something important, you prepare for it. You talk to the subject matter experts. You talk to the people that are working on it. You talk to your public affairs people to make sure that you're staying on message and consistent, and that you're professional about it. And then you get behind a podium and you open it up to the press. You give your briefing and you answer questions. That's the way to do it. As much as I dislike, and I said this on the Rasmussen Reports podcast, as much as I dislike Merrick Garland, and I think Merrick Garland broke the law. I'm confident he violated the Constitution, broke the law. He should go to jail for the things that he's doing. I would gladly go up there and work the case to demonstrate that. I think that, well, he actually, I don't remember him doing any news media hits, anything like that. He was always behind the podium. Now, I disagreed with the things he was saying, but at least he was using the proper platform to do it. Where do we go from here? I think that I see some people posting out there that Matt Gaetz is on his way to DC to go to the White House to talk to Donald Trump. And they're saying he's either going to be assigned as a special prosecutor, or Bondi's going to be fired and he's going to be the acting attorney general. Let's address these one at a time. I don't think that he's going to be the acting attorney general. I could be wrong. Trump could just say, I'm going to put him there. I don't care about the slings and arrows. I want him to get in there and break this stuff up at the door. As my good friend Kim Wade, radio show host down here, says on WYAB. I think that could happen, but I think it would be more likely that he would be a special prosecutor to look into things than that. Or it could just be maybe his wife has a doctor's appointment up in DC and that's why he's going up there. I don't know. Maybe I know something, maybe I don't. I don't get out there and try to talk about inside sources, and the people that I know that know things, they know that I don't get out there and put that stuff out on the internet. I will say that I do know a lot of things. I do know a lot of people. I do have some connections. I do have comps, but I'm not out here to try to monetize that or sensationalize that by, having those people tell me something in confidence, and then I turn around and blurt it out on the internet, try to protect them. But, my sources are telling me this. I also see some of these people that post some things out there, some of these big names that say things like, my sources are telling me this, this, and this. And then I will text somebody that I would think would know. And sometimes I get a rolling eye emoji or an LOL back. But that's pretty much it. I don't know who to trust out there. Anybody that's telling you they got inside sources and they know everything, most of them are full of crap. Unless you're talking to Dan specifically, unless you're talking to Cash specifically, or Trump, or Bondi, you don't know. Things are not always as they seem. So there was something out there. What was the guy's name? Benny Johnson. So Benny's out there and he's got this theory about the videotape, and he's posting schematics and stuff of the cells of the cell block and all of that. There's no way that this works because you can see it's this view here and this view here. Uh, I don't know what it looks like there. I've seen pictures and I've seen schematics. That doesn't mean I know what it looks like there. If you think you do and you've never been there, then you probably don't know what it's like. The thing that I would encourage somebody to do, and I talked to my brother-in-law Chris about this, he doesn't put any stock in any attorney that if their client is guilty, been charged with a crime, if that attorney doesn't visit the crime scene to get an actual perspective of what it looks like. Until you're there, you don't know. For example, how many of you have looked out there on Zillow at a home and you're like, wow, I'm going to take a look at the pictures. And they have 75 pictures, every 360-degree view of the house and the property. And you look at it and you think, this thing looks huge, this big palatial estate. And then you show up on the scene and it looks nothing like that. It looks smaller. It's just about the perspective. When we moved down here from DC, when I got promoted from headquarters back in 2005, 2006, we came down in 2005, late 2005, to do house hunting, and we visited a ton of houses. And we had gotten some pictures beforehand of what these properties look like, views from the mailbox through the driveway and down toward the house. And then I got down here and I'm like, this doesn't look near as big as it looks in the video or in the photo. It's because you really can't gain a perspective of it until you see it in person. Another example, we lived in South Dakota right outside Rapid City for over 3 years. My oldest was actually born in South Dakota. And while we were up there, we made our trip to Mount Rushmore. Now, when you see Mount Rushmore on TV, most people see it and they think it's this granite white looking, figures of the 4 presidents. And you think that this is, that's what it looks like. And then you get in person and you look and it doesn't look quite as big. It's more tan than it is white. And there's a big pile of rubble of rocks down below it, where they carved it out of the mountain. It just looks different in person. So I would caution people that are trying to make fulfill their curiosity, their conspiracy theories, and their confirmation bias by, doing all these analytics. And that takes me to the people that engage in confirmation bias, these investigative reporters. Some of them I like. I do read a lot of what they put out there, and they do hit the mark sometimes. But more often than not, they do engage in this confirmation bias. In other words, they come to the conclusion, they're only looking for information that supports that conclusion, and they discount anything that would contradict that conclusion. It's easy to slip into that. That is a death knell for somebody if you're an FBI agent and you're investigating a case, your job is to prove or disprove allegations. It's not to go in and say, I think John Smith is guilty, and I'm only going to look for information that proves he's guilty. You can't do confirmation bias. I think a lot of investigative reporters would be best served if they practice that same thing. Let the facts take you where they're going to go. Don't try to be first, be right. It's like some of the X accounts out here. When I see the little sirens and breaking news, I usually just scroll past those. I don't care who they are. And I will tell people that are out there that are on X, you don't have to have a large following or a large account for the things that you say to have value. I get some people following me. I think I have around 2,400 followers now. I don't obsess over it or anything. I'm not like, well, why does so-and-so have over 1 million followers? How does that happen in such a short period of time? I really don't care. I look for is it worth my time, the engagement, the content. And there's some people that they'll follow me and they may have 12 followers and I'll follow right back immediately. I'll take a look at some of the things that they post. And if if it's something that's interesting to me, something that I share their concerns, or I think that they make some valid points, I'll follow them. There's some people that I follow that have large accounts. It's more about the content with me, about what I'm looking at. And I'll give you one quick story before we sign off here in a little bit. I checked back in with Insurrection Barbie if we're going to do this Spaces thing. It's supposed to come up at 5 p.m. Eastern. At least that's what she DM'd me on Thursday. I haven't heard back from her right now. I hope she's okay. Um, so I will say that I wanted to give you a story of how you can impact something, and it involves me. So I thought it was kind of humorous and it was funny. So anybody that has followed my account, you saw over the past few months, I used to post this countdown ticker that Tom Tillis, when he stepped in it with the Ed Martin stuff about being U.S. Attorney in D.C. And he alienated a lot of his base, especially connecting that with his feelings about J6. So I had talked a little bit to Martin Mitchell about this and others, and his numbers were cratering. And if Calhoun, I think, is the governor there, if he ends up running for Senate, if he ran for Senate against Tillis, he was going to beat him by 20 points. Interestingly, though, if Laura Trump ran for Senate, she was going to win overwhelming. I don't know what she's going to do if she's going to run. But now Tillis has bowed out. But prior to that, I used to post this countdown clock. Today is whatever date, and this is how many days that Tom Tillis has in office before he's voted out. And I just did it tongue in cheek. I just would stick it out there. A couple of times, if Tillis popped up in my feed, I might put that in the replies and then move on. So I got a call from this guy from the out of Asheville, North Carolina, and he was a reporter, and he wanted to interview me. And I'm like, okay, well, what's this about? And he started talking to me about Tillis. And he said, you keep posting this countdown ticker and stuff. And I said, yeah, it's kind of a joke. He said, well, you're not even located in North Carolina. No, I'm in Mississippi, in Madison, Mississippi. And he said, well, what's the deal here? And I said, I just don't like people that don't represent their constituents, that don't follow their, the edicts of being a constitutional representative. We're in a representative democracy. We're in a constitutional republic. We're not in a democratic, or in a democracy. So he said that, have you seen some of the feedback once you posted that, some of the comments after? And I said, no, I really don't even go back and look. I just, I'm like, hey, I haven't posted a countdown in a day or two. Let me put another one up there. He said, people have been responding and kind of, taking what you said and really going after Tillis. And it's so much so that Tillis actually wants to know who you are. And I'm like, really? I'm just some guy down here in Mississippi, starting this podcast at the encouragement of friends and family. And I don't get that much into thinking I'm that important. I just am honored, the people that God brings into my circle or into my orbit. And he said, yeah, it's having an effect. Now, I'm not taking credit for Tillis bowing out. I think he probably his internal polling. He looked, and internal polling usually is much different than external polling. I think Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports would tell you that. I would follow him, though. He is the most accurate, and he nails it almost every time. He has great insight, great sense of humor. So I would encourage that you follow him. It is interesting. So if you have something to say out there, just say it. Don't worry if you only get 3 likes. Don't worry if you have little engagement. Just talk. It's a chance for you to decompress, interact with people that you agree with, some that you don't disagree with, as long as you engage in civil and cogent debate. I don't block people on X unless you directly attack. If you directly attack my family, guaranteed you're getting that. You're getting the block, and I probably will try to take it into other areas if necessary. What is it? Liam Neeson said, I have a particular set of skills. And it's not necessarily like him. It's just one of the things that I do. I have I have a LLC down here where I do some work for some law firms, and one of the ways that I've made my bones is being able to find people. That's kind of how I got my reputation here, and I'm very selective at the law firms I work with. The ones that work with me, trust me, when they ask me to do something, they'll say, "We can't find this witness," or "We can't find this person to serve documents on." Normally a process server would do that, but it's incumbent upon the law firm to actually do the legwork and figure out where the person might be. So I've gotten a number of firms that will contact me about locating somebody and then serving them. And I'll do some process service work sparingly. I just got back this morning. I was over in Meridian, Mississippi, doing some process serving. Had an individual, had about 6 people that they wanted me to serve that they couldn't find, couldn't locate. And I found 5 of them. One of them was from my investigation was out of state, and I kept my little tripwires out there, and then he came back. So met with him this morning, pleasant conversation, gave him his paperwork, and then kind of moved on. And I'll write it up, send my bill in. But it's one of the things I do. So the other thing that I do, and this is from my FBI training, is being able to find somebody on the internet, especially if you send an email to me and you want to threaten me on an email, fine, send it. You want to obscure or obfuscate who you are, put a fake name out there, some little fake Hotmail account, have at it. That internet header tracing, I used to teach classes on that. So we'll figure out where you are. And I'll pass that information on to law enforcement, or at least I'll get them on the right trail to find out who you are, because I know how it works on the inside when I need to find out who you are. Quick story before you shine off to demonstrate how to find somebody. And this is right after 9/11. And it involved somebody from the Washington Post. So I don't talk a ton about my FBI career. My brother-in-law, the producer here, will attest to that. He'll ask me, some questions. We get into some debates. We probably talk more about football and the Constitution than anything else. And so I'm in DC, and I had to pull a shift. We rotated around. I had to be up at FBI headquarters at the Strategic Information Operations Center. It's up on the 5th floor. That's called SIOC. That's the George H.W. Bush Strategic Information Operations Center. So I'm up there, and I get a call from this agent in the office. She'd been in probably about 25 years at the time. So I'm a pretty new agent. I've only been in a few years. And I'm sitting up there, and she says, "Hey, I'm trying to, I need to report some information." She provided it to me. It dealt with somebody that she was trying to locate that had some possible terrorism ties. And she gave me a brief on it, and she said, we've been trying to do the phone tracing, and it's dropped off. We get to a certain point, and then the information's not there. The way that the old days worked, with going from trunk to trunk and from different telephone providers, of trying to gather the information before they recycle and clear it out. They just weren't, there wasn't a success in finding it. So I mentioned to her, I said, "Well, heck, I'm on the National Computer Crime Squad. What about if you can convince this person to email?" I said, "Then I got a good chance of finding out who it is." She goes, "I don't know any of that stuff. What would you think about meeting me downtown tonight? And I'm going to introduce you to my contact, and we'll see what we can get going. You can brief him on this stuff." So I said, "Sure." Went home, grabbed a bite to eat, put a nice new cleaner suit on, and I go downtown, and I'm standing with the agent. And it's after 9/11, DC was really like a ghost town at night. And I'm standing there in the shadows, and I look and I see somebody coming, and all I can see is a silhouette. And when this person got close enough that the light hit him in the face, I recognized who it was. And some of you may know, the younger people may not recall, but I know the older people, the boomers like me, will. So I'm looking, and the light hits the face, and it's Bob Woodward of the Washington Post. That was the contact. I'm like, wow, okay. All the president's men, Watergate, all that stuff. Here's the guy. And we were just down a couple blocks down from where the Washington Post was. And he said, well, let's go up to my office at the Post. So we went up through the back. I think there's a loading dock or something there, if I recall. And we go upstairs and we walk into the, to the pit or whatever they called it. There's a bunch of desks and stuff. It looks just like it does in the movies where the reporters all sit, probably back in the 70s with their typewriters and all. So we see that. He points out where he and Bernstein sat, where their desks were during the whole Watergate thing. And we go in his office and we chat. And he mentions that he's got this lady that has contacted him. He doesn't know who she is. And she said that prior to 9/11, her boyfriend, who's in some motorcycle gang, that they had sold some explosives to a group of Middle Eastern men. And they didn't, at that time, this is prior to 9/11, they didn't know what they were going to do with it. 9/11 happens. The motorcycle guys get angry about it. And they say, oh, crap, we can't have these guys with these explosives. Let's go figure out where they are. And they find one of them. And they take this guy on a boat and they take him out in the middle of the water. I don't know, at that time, we didn't know where the water was, but they took him out there to interrogate him to find out where the rest of his people were and where the explosives were and what they were going to do. And they beat this guy to death, trying to get information out of him, and then dumped his body in the water. And Woodward's explaining the story to me, and he said, I don't understand why the FBI can't find this person, track them down on the telephone where she's been calling me. And I explained to him how the whole process works. And it's not that the FBI can't, it's a limitation on the telephone side of where the information is kept. And I think this was prior to the CALEA Act, the Communications and Law Enforcement Assistance Act, which forced telephone providers, internet providers and stuff to have the capability for the government with proper authorization through a court order to come in and plug into a system. So I threw the idea out of why don't you just get her to email you? If you can do that, then we'll look into it. And he said, well, the problem we have with that is, he said, I don't know if she has an email. I said, well, tell her to go create a Yahoo account or either a Yahoo account or a Yahoo account or a Hotmail account, and have her email you. And I explained to him the way internet header tracing works. So he did. And he sent, he told her to do that. And I said, okay, well, I'll create a similar type of account for you. And he goes, no. Just use my account. So he actually gave me his user ID and password to his personal email account. And it was his, I can tell you that. So I logged in and I kept watch for the email. And when the email came in, I had it set up to notify me on my pager to send an alert when it would come in, and I'd log into the system and pull the email up. I did the header tracing, and then I looked at the IP address and I traced it back to, there used to be these things called internet cafes back in the old days. And she was in an internet cafe in Ottawa, Canada. And I called the person there that managed the internet cafe. You used to be able to go into these places and get on their little kiosk and get on the internet. So I sent I said, here's where she's at. I talked to the person that was there. I notified my chain of command at FBI headquarters. They put me in touch with our legal attaché, our FBI office in Ottawa, told them what's going on. They got with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They started setting up surveillance on this area. And then we waited on the next time that this person emailed, and she emailed a day or so later. As soon as it hit, I went in, same IP address. I said, she's there. And they swooped in, they found her, arrested her, took her, I guess, wherever the RCMP was, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, started questioning her about, what's this going on? And we got a potential terrorist event that's going to happen. we need to talk to your boyfriend, all of this. After hours of interrogation, it turned out she was a loon. Some made up story, no way to corroborate it, fake. All of it was fake. Somehow she got the attention of Bob Woodward with her contacts. He thought he was going to have this inside baseball of this thwarting a terrorist event, and it would be his next column. He was very disappointed in that. And they arrested her, and that was pretty much it. But I was able to track her down there. Now, it's somewhat easier, I would say, now with a lot of this because almost everything's IP address based. So even finding people on cell phones, on things they're doing on X, there's ways of finding it. So that's the story there. All right. Well, we're getting to the end of this show, and I'm going to jump off here, and we may pop back up shortly. I'm going to check back in to see if Insurrection Barbie has the space going. I have not heard from her since Thursday, so I don't know if that's going to happen, if it is or not. If it is, that's fine. I will go in. I think the plan is to have me, maybe a couple friends of mine in there, former FBI agents, retired FBI agents, and we'll answer some questions. We'll give you our thoughts, ideas about what's going on. We won't talk any classified stuff or, stuff that we shouldn't be talking about. We're pretty adept at not doing that. But I think you'll be surprised at some of the things we will talk about and kind of give you a perspective of what we see, having been on the inside for a number of years. I do appreciate people coming on here. Like and subscribe. If you've got questions or whatever, Producer Chris, did anybody have anything of note that you want me to address before we get off here? Any questions? You can pop them up on the screen. I'm looking right now to see if anything pops up. Let me move some stuff around so I'm not looking off to the distance. Not seeing anything. I don't know if from my view if I can see anything of questions. I can't read that one. Let me see. If you were still an agent working with the prosecutor, what would be the charge you would bring against Garland and Comey and Brennan et al.? Okay, let's start off with Garland. So if I was going to bring charges against Garland, it would be for violation of civil rights of individuals. And that would be based on what he was directing DOJ components and the FBI to do with the school board stuff, with going out there and training individuals. He is violating people's, at a minimum, First Amendment rights to petition and seek redress against government by using the resources of the government to suppress people's ability to express civilly and civilly express their discourse with their elected representatives. It would be a violation of 18 U.S.C. 242. You can look it up. 18 U.S.C. 242 is deprivation of rights under color of law. As a federal agent in the FBI, I can't misuse the powers that I have, the arrest powers that I have, the ability to go out and suppress someone else's rights or take their rights away from them. If I do that, I can be held accountable for it. 18 U.S.C. 242. So that's just one. With Comey, multiple ones. With the things he did with the Russia collusion stuff, I can think there's probably a number to include. There's always that 18 U.S.C. 242, but with the falsification of the FISA warrants, because the way it works for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrants, when you fill that out and you sign off, you put that information in the affidavit for that search warrants where you're going to deprive somebody of their Fourth Amendment rights by getting a court authorization to surreptitiously surveil them in an area where they have an expectation of privacy. That would be a violation there because the director of the FBI or deputy director in his absence, somebody at the head of the agency is signing off on their portion of that affidavit and sending it in. And when it's false, they take responsibility. They're saying, I have looked into this. I'm confident that it's true and a best representation of what's there. That dovetails into what Kevin Kleinsmith did with changing the information that went into the affidavit to support the FISA warrant against Carter Page. So, yeah, pretty easy with Garland, Comey, Brennan playing his role in that with the misuse of his powers of suppressing information that would have impacted the 2020 election. There's a lot of stuff there. So yeah, for Peter C., I don't know who that is. That's at a minimum 18 USC 242, the deprivation of rights under color law. Chris, any other questions? I haven't seen a message back from Insurrection Barbie yet. So any other questions of note that you want me to address before we jump off here? Thank you, Peter C., for putting your question forward. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime you want to get in those debates. I've had some of the constitutional and FBI debates with some people I consider friends out there. Bill Shipley, who's Shipwreck Crew, he and I have gone back and forth on the constitutional law. We probably agree more than we disagree, but he's fun to debate. Jonathan Turley, I haven't got him in the debate, but there are things that I get frustrated with some of the things that he does. There's my good friend John Nance. Is that a new profile pic for John? I love how people with no access think they have the answers. Benny is an engagement farming fan dancer. That sounds like John. Congratulations, John, on the new profile pic. Unless you're chiming in on YouTube, I don't know if that's your new profile pic on X. I make fun of John because he's got the goatee and a bit of gray there, bit of gray. Well, anyway, thanks again for the Blunt Force Conservative Podcast for tuning in. Next week, I'm working on some things where we're looking at probably having a representative from the Rhino Removal Project. I got connected in with them, and there's a young man, Blake Bartlam. You can search him on X. He's over here in Mississippi. They've brought him into their fold with the Rhino Removal Project. We'll talk a little Mississippi politics. We'll talk some of the establishment stuff. I'm sure that we'll still be talking about what's going on with Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino. Got a little bit of a side wager, nothing major, with my brother-in-law here. He thinks that Monday is going to be fish or cut bait day with Pam Bondi, that either Dan Bongino is going to be gone on Monday or Pam Bondi is, and I'm thinking that Tuesday morning they're both still going to be employed. That this too shall pass. We'll see. I could be wrong. Usually not, but I could be wrong. So thanks again for tuning in on the Blunt Force Conservative Podcast. I'm Chris Hinkle, your Blunt Force Conservative. Right now, doing my best. I don't know if people know Tom Fenton out there. I'm not a follower of his. I don't like a lot of the stuff he does, but got the arms going here. So he's usually wanting to show off his work ethic in the gym. Me, I'm just a 61 and a half year old, soon to be granddad that's just trying to stay ahead of the Grim Reaper and get into the shape so I can protect my future granddaughter. Thanks again for taking the time to listen to me. Feel free to reach out anytime. If you got questions, if you want to know my thoughts on something, as anybody will tell you, I am exactly the same online, on podcast here, as I am in person. The way that I'm talking right now, the way that I debate, the way that I analyze things is exactly the same as you see here. I am no different when you meet me in person. There are some people that are more shy and reserved when they're in person. That ain't me. I am what you see. And I am blunt. I will tell you. You think I don't like you? Ask me. I will tell you. If I don't like you, I'll tell you why. If I encourage you, if you think I don't like you, ask me. And if I do like you, let's get that behind us so that we can move on and be friends. Most of the time, I'm trying to be friends with people and trying not to get involved in anything. As I mentioned about getting into shape, I can handle myself pretty well. I'm not intimidated much. I'm not a huge guy. I'm about 5'7"-ish, 5'8". On a good day. As you get older, you kind of shrink a little bit. Pretty strong for my age. Pretty decent shot with a gun. Pretty good with a heavy bag. So I have enough confidence there that we can solve the situation. Hopefully we solve it with words, or I can get distance between the two of us, because distance is your friend. Thank you again. God bless. God bless the United States of America. We'll see you next week.